I've already asked Patrick what are the main challenges that are facing the fishing industry, what are the biggest issues, and he told me straight out quotas. We were down in Castletown Bear last weekend, we met with some of the local fishermen down there, and it was the same quotas. So I suppose just for anyone that's here that don't know anything about quotas, or the quotas that are there, how did they come into existence? Who made them up? On what basis were they determined? Can you go down through the history of the Irish fishing quotas, please?
I'll be as brief as possible. So when Ireland was looking for to join the EEC, as it was, the European Economic Community, one of the things that we had to sort out was our fishing waters. And the fishing boats that fished in Ireland weren't as modern as the boats in Spain and on the continent, because we didn't have to steam hundreds of miles to get to our fishing grounds. We went outside the harbour and the fish were so plentiful, we caught what we needed and we brought it back in. The markets weren't developed, the technology wasn't there to be able to send fish as much as we can now in the back of a truck and a refrigerated lorry, so our markets were lacking. Mm-hmm. So the European Union, from the cod wars that was started in Iceland, right? So the cod wars were, each country had out to 12 miles their economic zone, and you would have heard that when they were talking about the Russians, that, oh, they're not inside in our waters, but they were in the EEZ. You'll see it up on the map up here. So instead of the 12-mile zone here, they extended the waters to 200 miles for every country. And at that stage then they had to figure out who had the rights to fish inside the water. So they set like a stopwatch, right? Mm. And they recorded all the boats that were fishing inside in the water at the time, and then they froze it like a picture in time. But we were disadvantaged because we didn't have the markets developed, we didn't have the fleet that was developed. So they took advantage of our country. Mm-hmm. And there were, some of the lads will testify here, I'd say inside in their attics, John's and John D's and John Tatton's, they probably have some of the documentation that recorded the fish that they had at that time that was never picked up by our state to show how much fish we were actually catching. Mm-hmm. So we were given a very poor share of the fish, and the other countries put zeros after their figures, we believed, and pumped up their figures because the landing figures didn't match what they were claiming they were landing. But the European Union froze it at that time. To give an example of this, Becky, is this. So we have a fish that's coming into our waters now called bluefin tuna. And one of those bluefin tuna, a Japanese would say, one bluefin tuna, one new Toyota. So that's how valuable they are, right? Yeah. There is a quota there of over 20,000 tons of this fish, and these are all coming into our waters and passing our shores and going up to Iceland and everywhere else. We get a bycatch share of 1% of the tuna we have, which is a share of 74 tons. I'd say that again. We get to share with 4 to 5 other countries of 74 tons of this fish, mm-hmm. and there's 20,000 tons of these fish as a quota for Europe. So we were, to put it mildly, cheated and robbed of our own natural resource.